How's it going, everybody? Say hello to the Xiaomi Mi A1. This video will be one part unboxing and first impressions of this phone, and one part of me talking about my feels about Google's various pure vanilla Android initiatives throughout the years. On to the unboxing. I got this from Lazada for 10,199 pesos. It's supposed to have local supplier warranty. There are sellers selling the same phone for 1,000 pesos less but without warranty. This does not come with earphones, but Lazada provided a pair. The screen is 5.5 inches diagonal. I like it. I'm not crazy about the newfangled trend of elongated screens with 18:9 aspect ratio. The SIM tray is a hybrid one. The advertisement calls it 3 choose 2. What a joke. I hate this hybrid SIM trend. Why do I have to choose between having a dual SIM phone and external memory? And how much more space will a standalone memory slot take internally? Despite the large internal memory, it's still handy to have an external memory card handy for backups. It saved me when my LG G4 died of the known LG boot leak issue in 2016. Most of my data was on my external memory card, and I easily transferred it to my next phone, the Flash Plus 2, which I unboxed last year. I'll link to it below. I'm gonna turn this on now. I won't fast forward this part so you can see how long its initial startup is in real time. Okay, I'm skipping through the initial setup stages. The part I'm most excited about is that this phone is Nougat version 7.1 something, which means it can natively run 2 apps at a time in one screen without resorting to installing third-party apps. This was what excited me the most when I got my Tab S3 a few months ago. Now let's see if this works on the Mi A1. I'm not real pleased that Xiaomi uses this hamburger icon to represent recent apps. This hamburger icon is a relic from the days when the bar at the bottom had a menu button and it was supposed to be the menu, but I remember that was gone by version 4. A lot of these China manufacturers retained that hamburger icon, but they no longer use it as the menu because menu has been moved to the 3-dot thing on the upper right of apps, right? So, but they still retain that icon to represent recent apps. Well, at least the split screen 2 app thing works. This is supposed to support USB on the go too. Let's see how this performs. faster. Not something you see every day. Let's see if it works. Wow, it works! Well, that concludes the unboxing, first impressions of the Xiaomi Mi A1. Feel free to stop watching here if you're not interested in hearing me talk about my thoughts about having pure Android on the phone. This Xiaomi Mi A1 is not the first Android One phone that I've bought. This Cherry Mobile Android One phone, I got this in 2015 and it's still working like a charm today. Would you believe that this only has 1GB RAM and 8GB of internal memory? It still hasn't slowed down, although I can't really install new stuff anymore due to the storage limitation. You can expand its storage with a micro SD card, although not all apps allow you to do that, unlike Spotify. Thank you, Spotify. And I'm so over moving apps over to be installed in the external memory. It just doesn't work like it should. As you guys know, Android One was Google's initiative for countries with a huge population of poor but internet and mobile device lovers to have access to very cheap but not totally crap phones that's also going to stay current OS-wise. With a lot of cheap phones, hell even in 2017, even mid-range ones, a lot of them tend to slow down to the point of unusability as time goes on due to the abundance of bloatware and bad custom skins. Project Treble can't come fast enough. When they were planning this whole Android One version 1.0 initiative back in 2014, or whenever the hell they were planning it, because the first one of these was released in 2015, anything under the US $200 range for a cell phone was pretty much a guaranteed piece of crap. So Google thought, let's give all those poor but internet-loving folks a break and bring out sub US $100 phones that are basic and may scrimp at some luxuries like a 1080p screen or a fancy camera, but are fast, reliable, and will remain fast for years to come and will stay current OS-wise. You can think about it like Nexus for poor folks. Nexus. Nexus has ghosted us. No new tablets for years. And Google's very expensive new phones for this year and 2016 were all under a different Pixel branding. Hell, even their tablet that came out a couple years ago, the super expensive one, was also under the Pixel branding. It's like Google went from targeting the poor with their Android One phones and the middle class with their Nexus phones and tablets to targeting the 1% with their Pixel phones and tablets and Chromebooks. Fall of 2017 comes along, suddenly there's a whole slew of Android One phones. However, the price point is double what the first batch of Android One phones used to cost. In fact, the price is now kind of what the Nexus phones used to cost before their last phone under that moniker came out, which became very expensive, and then the phone after that they ditched the Nexus name and started going with Pixel. So you could think of Pixel becoming the Nexus for 1%ers and Android One becoming what Nexus used to be. Out of those, only the Xiaomi Mi A1 is currently officially available in the Philippines. I haven't seen the Moto X4 being sold in online channels. So I decided to give it a try. I'm not going to actually be the end user. This is for my father to use. One good thing about the Xiaomi Mi A1 is that it uses USB-C. Since his eyesight isn't so hot, being a senior citizen, I labeled the side that should face up of his micro USB cable with washi tape. I'm talking about his previous phone. So whenever he plugs it in, it will be the correct side. But with USB-C not having a right or wrong side up, it's so much more convenient. Not just for senior citizens or people with poor eyesight, but anyone else in a rush or fumbling in the dark. The Xiaomi Mi A1 is going to replace its Vivo V3. I made a video about unusual features of the FunTouch OS in 2016. I'll link to it below. The phone I used for that video is the aforementioned Vivo V3. And the reason I even had to make a video about the unusual quirks of that skin is because a lot of these heavily skinned versions of Android are just so confusing and weird, which makes me glad to be going back to pure Android. I hate it when phone makers molest their phones with weird custom skins and layouts. It's very inconsistent and very inconvenient. It requires a lot of device-specific research and memorization. Look at this Vivo V3, the phone that the Xiaomi Mi A1 is replacing. It was released the second quarter of 2016 and I got it in July 2016, running Android 5.1 Lollipop when I first got it, and it never got Marshmallow. Until now, it's still running 5.1 and will do so until the end of its days. This little Cherry Mobile Android One phone was released in the first quarter of 2015 and I got it in April of 2015 of that year. It was released with Android 5.1 Lollipop and it was eventually updated to version 6, Marshmallow. It's currently running that now. A lot of phones that came out in 2015 of this price range or even a little more up until the 10,000 peso, $200 range, it came out with Android 5.1 or even 4.4 up until the second quarter of 2015, I remember. And then they never got updated. So this one came out like at 4,000 pesos, which is under $100. And it even got Android 6. In fact, as of this 2017, I've seen a lot of brand new phones up until the second quarter of this year that were released with Android 6 and not 7. 2017. Anyway, it eventually got version 6 and it's running smoothly still. A lot of phones of this price range and even a little more up until 10,000 pesos, US $200, after a few months it's gonna slow down to a crawl and you're gonna throw it away in the garbage and buy a new one. So what's so great about this cheap little Android One phone is that even if it's stuck at Marshmallow for now, I think it's no longer gonna get to be upgraded to Nougat. It's okay. The built-in Google apps continue to be updated. For example, I noticed in the past couple of months that the SMS notification gained the option to mark a new text message as read, even without entering the SMS app. I'm quite sure it didn't come with that feature for the first 2 years I had it. I don't know at what point it gained that feature, which particular update, but it was most def after the second quarter of 2017, proving that this little phone still gets updates. This was released first quarter of 2015. I got it April 2015. It's December 2017 now. For a phone this cheap to be supported that long is unheard of by Android manufacturers. Well, this isn't being supported by its manufacturer, it's being supported by Google. It's Google pushing out updates for its native apps. I can only hope that Google shows this Xiaomi Mi A1 the same amount of love it showed this in the years to come. These are the different pure vanilla Android devices I've had before upgrading and selling. These ones were my father's and they worked great too. This was the first Motorola G. I only sold it to change to another phone because he found the screen too small eventually. It never slowed down months down the road unlike other phones at its price point. His Asus Nexus 7 2013, which is the second generation one, is still working great until now, 2017 in fact, although the updates stopped at Marshmallow. Of course, we also had the first generation one. Had to sell his HTC Nexus 9 last month since the hardware was getting weird, loud beeps, etc. But the software operation was as fast and smooth as day one. It was upgraded to version 7.1 Nougat 2. Got this in 2014 with version 5 installed then. Well, I hope you enjoyed the unboxing and the little trip down memory lane. Thank you for watching. See you next video.